Welcome to an introduction to executive function part one. I am your host, Kara Thorpe. I'm an executive function skills performance coach for Yellow Parachute. I happen to be the founder of the company, and we've created the Quantum Jump programming segment of Yellow Parachute Learning Partners to help us hone in on how executive function skills can help us achieve our personal favorite version of ourselves. And you'll see the model that we suggest is the way to success. This is a collaboration between Becoming Your Best Global and Yellow Parachute Learning Partners. We believe that executive function skills, leadership skills, and social emotional skills give us the tools we need to be our very favorite version of ourselves. And so the foundational skill set we're going to talk about would make sense to be executive function skills. Today, you're going to learn the answer to 5 very important questions that are going to form the basis for the work we do together. You'll notice we've got some stick figures representing the executive function skills on the right of the screen, and we'll go into more detail about each of those skills. And here are the questions you're going to find the answers to. You can see those on the left side. What are executive function skills? Why are they so important? How does an executive function skills lens develop growth mindset? What is a personal example for you of how this is true? That your executive function skills lens would help you build that personal growth mindset or that growth mindset. And then what are some simple ways to start applying the executive function skills lens today to flex your muscles and build powerful habits that move you toward the person you want to become in life? That's the key to everything, right? To living a successful, fulfilled life in every aspect of what we do. And again, we call it kind of showing up as your favorite version of you. So first, the executive function skills that build our skill set. So executive function skills are a set of 12 skills that help with the brain process that we call executive function. So executive function is defined as the processes in the brain or the parts of the brain that help with these processes in the prefrontal cortex. And those processes are planning, remembering, focusing, and doing. And that might be shifting tasks. So if you think about your day, pretty much everything you do is planning, remembering, focusing, and doing. And that's why executive function skills are so important. The skills themselves that we can focus on to help our executive functions are impulse control and response inhibition, stopping a reaction that might be a knee-jerk reaction and choosing something else. Emotional control, understanding how our emotions are affecting us and choosing to manage those emotions to make choices again that we want to be making. Sustained attention, choosing where we focus our attention. Flexibility, looking at ideas, issues, and events from multiple perspectives, otherwise known as what do you do when things don't go as planned, also called cognitive flexibility. Working memory is the concept of holding an idea in mind and then looking at it either from a different perspective or using it to help you get something done. A really simple example is a mathematics algorithm or PEMDAS, remembering, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and then executing on using PEMDAS to get a math equation correct. Self-monitoring, being aware of how your emotions are either displayed, what you're feeling inside, how you're affecting other people, and then matching your inside and outside. We'll talk a lot more about that. What your awareness of self shows you that you're doing versus what you want to be doing. You can monitor to help you do more of what you want to do and less of what you don't. Planning and prioritizing, pretty self-explanatory. Task or time management, really tricky for humans with executive function skills deficits. Task initiation, organization. Do you know where your stuff is? Where to find it? Goal-directed persistence, and the perception of failure. Can you get back up and try again? And then stress tolerance, which, as you can imagine, given the list I've already talked about, stress tolerance involves several different executive function skills. We don't start talking about stress tolerance until the brain is closer to fully developed, around the age of 18. But we like to include it in the discussion so that you have an understanding of how all of the other skills lead into your ability to tolerate stress. So those are your 12 skills outlined. We'll probably talk more about the 11 unless you're 18 or above. And you can start thinking about now, what are your strengths and weaknesses, predicting those things, and then you'll have a chance to find out if your predictions are true. Okay, so why are executive function skills so important? Question number 2. Here, I'm going to answer that question with 5 facts about executive functions that make them impossible to ignore. You'll see on the right side of the screen, I've got the capsule wardrobe. Instead of the toolbox, I've kind of rebranded that toolbox idea with the capsule wardrobe idea, but it's your set of basics, your go-to, what you would do every day if you had to choose like one outfit for the rest of your life. They are really just so basic to our success, basic to living, that I've adopted the idea of a capsule wardrobe to talk about executive function skills. And we want to create that capsule wardrobe to fit you. We're all going to have a slightly different way that we demonstrate who we are, what we do, how we express our personality. And so you're going to add to that list in a very real way. As you'd add to your wardrobe visually, we want you to use these executive function tools in a way that you're able to demonstrate who you are and how you want to show up in your daily life. So mental toolkit for success, matching the inside and the outside, that capsule wardrobe on the outside with who you want to be, your vision of yourself. Executive function is more predictive of academic and career success than socioeconomic status or IQ. Oftentimes, we equate socioeconomic status with accessibility or access to programs that help you in your educational experience. And IQ is your ability, in a nutshell, to obtain information, visual, auditory, kinesthetically, but to take in the information and then decide how you want to use it. Now, that's IQ. Executive function plays a huge role in being able to remember, work with, plan, prioritize that information, which is why it is more predictable of success than IQ itself. I hope that starts to make sense for you. We know that with executive function and executive function skills, practice is critical, as with any skill, for improvement. So these are things we need to practice. We're not going to be able to set up our calendar, to prioritize our time, to remember to put away our socks, to do our chores, to do all the things the first time. But with practice, we can improve our ability to reach, this is important, the specific goals we set for ourselves. That's why you're here, to set your goals and practice them for your own improvement, nobody else's, your own. Number 4, executive function skills need to be continually challenged, as any skill, in order to see improvements. You think about anything you do, whether it's theater, whether it's a sport, whether it's studying for a test, whether it's learning a speech, learning a song, learning an instrument, anything you do to develop skills, you need to add in the layers of challenge in order to improve them. And it is that balance between stress and success that helps you grow. And finally, it is your mentor's job to help you move yourself through into success by helping you lessen things that impair you. So remove certain obstacles, stress, sadness, fear of failure, the things that we struggle with on a regular daily basis, motivation, emotional distress, and then enhance the things that support you, like joy, increasing that motivation, sense of belonging with other students, accountability, partners. So it is our job as mentors to help you do that. And it's your job to continually ask yourself, this is a great question, what do I need here to be successful? And that is part of how you're going to start using the executive function skills lens to help you gain success, because it's going to help you articulate which obstacles you need help removing and which supports you need help adding. I hope this is sounding good to you already. Let's keep going. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm here. I have a lot of experience, both lived experience as a human with ADHD and as a passionate educator, learning about ADHD, executive functions, and let's just, in a nutshell, say all of the things. I've been involved in education, coaching, teaching since I was, gosh, 12 years old. I was the human that lined up my animals and drew on the chalkboard and taught my animals when I was younger. I love the idea of organizing things and learning. It was always a superpower. Fast forward, I became overwhelmed in school because I never learned how to study. It was something that came natural to me. And so when the stress was added of post high school activities, college, I began to experience a weight I'd never felt before. I felt stupid. I felt ashamed of myself. And looking back, I also see how I developed a lot of perfectionistic tendencies to mask or cope with my ADHD. There is so much more to that story, but that's just a little bit of my lived experience. And it gives you an idea to why and how I've sought out tools over the past 20 some years to help other humans who experience similar things and different things than I did. But it gives you kind of a grounding in why I'm so passionate about executive function skills. My degrees are undergraduate from Grinnell in Iowa, teeny tiny little liberal arts school. Came up to the University of Minnesota to do my master's in education, and I have continued collecting degrees ever since. I finished the master's in about the year 2000, and you can imagine all of the things I've added since then. And then, probably most important to you, is my certification in becoming your best and do what matters most. Two of the programs that I've taken and then infused with executive function skills to bring the business oriented education that Becoming Your Best does as a global training organization to you as a student. So that is a lot, as fast as I could, because I want to get on to the good stuff. But I'm always open to sharing my personal experience if there is something that you can take away from it to be affirmed in the fact that you're not alone, and also help you continue your journey to figure out what works for you. So, talked about a little bit about what are executive function skills, why are they important, how does an executive function skills develop growth mindset. This is another lived experience for me. I mentioned I had developed that set of perfectionistic tendencies, and they really became ingrained in my behavior over time, such that I'm still unpacking them today at 47. And so being aware of how we may or may not, that's the mindfulness aspect, how we may or may not be coping with our ADHD, our executive function difficulties, is super helpful and important to develop growth mindset. And the coping comes from looking at what we're doing through an executive function skills lens. So we talk about executive function skills as a specific set of skills we can develop to improve the executive functions. We've talked about that. We use in planning, focusing our attention, switching gears. That's the doing and juggling multiple tasks, remembering. And a huge important part of this is the focus, which you may have been led to already, a focus on the word skills. We know that skills can be learned and practiced. And so when we break up the events of your day, the things that happen in your life into this set of skills, this set of executive function skills, it removes the subjectivity of feelings of less than, of I'm bad, you're bad, of emotional overload that we can sometimes feel. And it helps us look specifically at skills that we can learn, set goals, practice. And I just want to take offer the opportunity for you to say, how does this learning, the past just over 15 minutes that I've shared with you, how does this give you a new perspective, perhaps in how you look at things you do well, things you don't, or an aspect of your life that you hadn't thought about before? You can be sure that if you're working with me or if you're working with another executive function skills coach, they're going to want to know just what are your initial thoughts and what is your takeaway. Taking a breath and switching gears just for a second. Why is this so important that we stop and look at what's happening in our lives through an executive function skills lens? I'll tell you. It is because when we think about, in fact, I'm going to go to the next slide here. A great way to think about executive function skills is this quotation from Russell Barkley that I will share. In case you're wondering who Russell Barkley is, he is a phenomenal ADHD educator. He has devoted his life to researching ADHD. He's got a really realistic perspective. He will tell it like it is. And then he also offers a lot of hope in practical application. He gears his teaching mostly toward parents and adults, but then from that we can take what he says and lean into teaching and growing the mindset, skill set, and habits for our students. So it's not that the individual does not know what to do, says Barkley. It's that somehow it does not get done. And that's the crux of it, right? Why in the world do I know exactly what I need to do, but when it comes down to it, I don't do it? I unintentionally rhymed there, but it's absolutely true and real. From a parent perspective, from a student perspective, I've been on both ends. When the parent says, why are you playing with Legos instead of cleaning your room? Why are you making bracelets instead of cleaning your room? Why didn't you unload the dishwasher, get all of your sports equipment together, miss this very important appointment that you had? Nobody really knows. And we all kind of scratch our heads and say, why did that happen? I don't even know. If you're a parent or a teacher and you ask the question, and then you're thinking, why did I even ask? And the kid says, I don't know. They really don't know. Um, They really don't. Uh, if you're like on the receiving end of this, I don't know. I'm sorry. We don't do it on purpose. And if you can offer like the hands clasping, regulate your own emotions and ask them the question, what do you need to be successful? Let's talk this through. That's the best thing you can do. And then if you're on the giving end of the I don't know question, please, please, please know that the people that are trying to help you are truly trying to help you, not trying to hurt you. And take, maybe regulate your emotions and say, what can I do to get what I need? How can I ask for it? It's hard, it's tricky, but it absolutely can be done. And why is this so important is the question that I originally asked. It's because our brains aren't sophisticated at seeking conclusions when they first, we'll call this like scanning, when they're scanning to make meaning. That is constantly what our brain is doing, is scanning the situation to make meaning of it, to help us decide how to protect ourselves. That's the basic evolutionary instinct, right? Is protecting, like danger, run away, safety, go toward it. So if your brain is scanning to make conclusions and there's something that's stressing you out, it's going to say danger, run away. And that's really not what we want to do here, right? Um, and the runaway is either, run away from a dangerous thing, or like run away because you are dangerous. So I'm translating that to either I'm bad, the person who's messing up, or you're bad, the teacher or the parent or the individual who is calling out the mistake or the mess up. So we don't want to do I'm bad, you're bad. We don't want to do fight or flight. We don't want to engage in those typical knee-jerk activities, even though they're very human, natural, and normal, because they take away our chance to learn. They take away our chance to communicate. They take away our chances to work together to help solve. And so that's how an executive function skills lens develops growth mindset from the communication perspective. I hope you start to see, the people that you love. If you're a leader of humans who are students, I hope you start to see, okay, I can do this differently now. And if you are being led right now in some capacity as a student, I hope you start to see that there's hope, that you can start saying, here's what I'm really good at and here's what I need, rather than feeling like you need to run away and protect yourself from shame or hurt, or run away from someone who is, like shaming or hurting you, right? It sounds the same, but there's just that little difference between them. And we'll talk more about that as well. So executive function skills lens, good, creates safety, creates discussion, creates the good things that help us learn. Okay, so some simple ways to start applying this lens today, right now, to build executive function skills and powerful habits. Well, first, if you are someone who says, why did I mess up? And you think to yourself, like the woman in the photo, any normal person would be able to do this. If you can start removing that self-talk, that negative self-talk from your vocabulary, yes, that's a good thing. That's the number one thing you can do. Understand that symptoms of executive function issues are just that. They are a normal part of executive function issues. So these weaknesses that are in the brain, they show up in the behavior. And I talk about that in the inside, weakness in the brain show up in outside behavior, there's a mismatch between what you perhaps want to do and what actually happens, whether it's like an overabundance of activity or an underabundance of activity. The mismatch is there. We're going to talk about a man named Phineas Gage who helped us see that for the first time. But for now, know that this is not a personality flaw. This is not a character flaw. This is naturally how executive function issues play out for humans, all humans with executive function. So you're not alone. And if you would take the time now to journal about how would you feel or how have you felt when you were trying your best but felt misunderstood or judged? And then how about if you've heard over time, or imagine that you've heard over time, bad things about yourself, or thinking bad things about yourself? And then lastly, what are some steps you could take to be kinder to yourself right now, regardless if you feel that executive functions are a huge part of your difficulty, or maybe just a small part? I'm sure there are things you can do today, right now, to change that dialogue. Write down the words you could use that would be different from maybe how you are normally talking to yourself right now. I hope you're not able to hear the background conversation. I'm trying really hard to sustain my attention to creating the video as my two young men, as my two sons are having a conversation. So there you go, practicing right now. What are some difficulties that you may be focusing on, maybe experiencing that you want to make change in? We've answered the 5 questions, and now let's kind of get into a little bit more what you may be experiencing. Executive function skills help with the following activities. And so those who have executive function weakness may find it hard to figure out how to get started on a task, focus on small details or the overall picture, but not both at the same time, have trouble figuring out how much time a task requires, so budgeting, um, and have trouble doing things then as a result, either quickly and maybe messily, or slowly and incompletely, not having enough time to finish. We may find it hard to incorporate feedback into our work or an activity. There are a number of different reasons why. And we may also find it hard to stick with a plan, even if we know that plan's not working. We are not quite sure what to do differently. We may have trouble paying attention and get easily distracted, have trouble taking turns, blurt out in a classroom as a result, interrupt during conversations, talk back when given a direction. And that can be because we take things very literally. We take language very literally. And there is the response to just kind of refute right away if we see a problem with something, and we may even be afraid that we're going to forget something. So we blurt that thing out. And we may lose a train of thought when interrupted, need to be told the directions many times, or go back to the directions, have trouble making decisions, have a tough time switching gears from one activity to another, that transition time. We may not always have the words to describe something in detail, or be able to process easily what something looks like, sounds like, smells like, using our senses. We may not be able to do or think about more than one thing at a time. That's the juggling aspect. And we may remember information better. So think about studying, using cues, abbreviations, or acronyms. So if there's a process we need to remember, it may be helpful to use specific cues. And all of this awareness is going to go into helping you feel like the I know I can't is getting smaller, and the maybe I can is getting bigger. That's going to happen over time. One more time. We want the opposite to happen, right? We want our I know I can't to shrink and our maybe I can to get bigger instantly. This image was brought to me by a fifth grade student who said, "This is how I feel." And he started to sketch it out, which I think is pretty super cool. I'm at the 30-minute mark. I'm going to leave you with just a couple of things to think about. Here is a journal opportunity that I would love for you to be able to take right now. Which of the tasks presented to you in the last 4 slides, so the list of difficulties that people with executive function may have, which of these tasks are the hardest for you to do right now? And so you can just mark those in your participant guide. Are there others that you thought of that your mind was jogged by watching the video? For sure, add those now. And then third, looking at the list of executive function skills in your participant guide, do you see how the difficulties in the tasks that you're having a difficult time with, do you see how they may match up with executive function skills? So the wording of the question is, which executive function skills would you guess that these hard tasks are connected to? This is just take a guess, take a start, and we will continue to follow through with answering these questions and building your understanding of executive function skills. And the next slide, when you learn about Phineas Gage, a railroad foreman who taught us about the inside versus the outside in an accident that he had working on the railroad in the 1800s. I will see you again soon.